All right, time is sneaking up on 9:45. It is Wednesday evening, 9:45 Eastern time, I should say. Still getting used to that. I lived all my life in the Central time zone, so a little bit difficult to switch over the time zones, even though we're about half a county away from the timeline. Central time, we cover some of that in portions of East Tennessee and northern parts of Alabama. So we do have a little bit of a time shift here. But again, time here in Chattanooga, Tennessee is 9:45 p.m. I'm Chief Meteorologist Austen Onek. This is Weather Overtime. This is our usually nightly video weather blog, but we've had to move it up a little bit from time to time because of the fact that we have had some schedule changes going on. That's what happens in a TV station. Chip Chapman has had some scheduled events going on that he's had to be present for, and meteorologist Todd Heislip has been covering for me in the evening. So I've been covering for Chip in the morning. So the whole fruit basket upset is now over with for now. So we are again back with you on Wednesday night, the 16th of August. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you got questions about the forecast for what's going on here in the Tennessee River Valley, southeast Tennessee, North Georgia, northeast Alabama, and a small portion of western North Carolina, that's the area we cover. But if there's a question you have that we don't know the answer to, or we can find out more about where to get your information to your question, please just go ahead and ask it. We'll be glad to see what we can about finding out more about what's happening and what you're asking about. If you're just tuning in on Twitch, again, this has absolutely nothing to do with dancing, cooking, video games, anything else in the way of hobbies, although I do mention amateur radio quite a lot. If you're on Twitch and just tuning in to see what this stream is all about, meteorologists talking about weather. We are on simulcasting right now. Two cameras set up on the monitor. The one on the right is going to Facebook, and the one on the left over here, that's my right, not your right, going to Twitch TV. And this is just talking about weather and what's going on with the forecast. And occasionally we try to throw in as many unique and interesting things to talk about. We'll take a look at tomorrow morning's bus stop forecast, so stay tuned for more on that. And of course, we'll take a look at the tropics, which are getting decently active. We'll see what's going on into and around the area there. We'll take a look at some of our webcams, and also again taking a look at just the generic forecast for the area and see what's going on. We do have the possibility of some more smoke coming down our direction out of Canada and the Pacific Northwest. It's kind of iffy right now to see if that's actually going to happen. It's still several days out, and the closer you get to a forecast, the more accurate you get. So we start to see the potential for more of that going on. We'll also talk about some weather misinformation by one of the best in the business. That was on his Twitter feed just a little while ago, so stay tuned for more there. Tons of stuff. And again, if you got questions, the chat function is on both Twitch and Facebook. So whatever you got, ask, and we'll do our best to answer what we can on that. But let's go ahead and jump into it for tonight. And let's take a look outside. Some very comfortable weather out there. There's a ton of construction and a lot of things happening just past this picture back over to around Moore Road. This is the Tomahawk Crane and Rigging EPB fiber optics weathercam network, and from around the area of 75 Interstate 75 northbound going to 24 west, you're looking north from that area, just north of the Georgia state line. You can see some of the transmitter tower lights on Signal Mountain off in the distance, and traffic at this time from 75 north to 24 west, encountering some of that construction going on there. The roadway 75 from 24 east to 75 north, that appears to be moving along quite nicely, and for heading to about 75 south, not seeing a lot of problems there either, so definitely some good news for some of the travelers out there. Let's take a look, if I can get this, hang on a second, I got to go back to the macro view. From downtown Chattanooga, a few clouds overhead earlier, and just about able to see back off to the distance there a little bit of some of the lights up on top of Lookout Mountain. Doesn't look like it. That could be the crescent moon hanging out there, but I think the moon is already set for earlier on tonight. Lee points from the Plainview Outdoor Advertising webcam at 153 and 64. You can see the lights of 64 stretching off there in the distance off to the southwest. Visibility is okay for right now, but we may be seeing some more patchy fog into tomorrow morning. Hopefully a decent sunset. We'll have to run Island Cove back to see what the camera saw on a time lapse coming up a little bit later on. That's the Island Cove Marina and Resort camera. So nice to see the waters there, decently quiet. A lot of folks out on the waters from earlier tonight. And around the area of News 12 Studios, looking back, you can't really see too much of the north flank of Lookout Mountain there, but some nice views back off to the west. So a nice evening across much of the area and not seeing any major problems with visibility yet. Tomorrow morning, that could be an issue as we see the potential for some more fog coming our direction. Stay tuned. We'll have more on that in just a little bit. Comfortable temperatures out there. Even the humidity is not all that high. Back into the 69% range. That's very comfortable. Temperatures, again, have been much toastier than this over the last few weeks. So numbers not bad, and a few clouds reported at the Chattanooga airport, but beyond that, not really looking at too much going on for this evening. We'll take a look at radar and satellite coming up in just a little bit. High temperature today, 85, 5 degrees below normal, 6 below normal on the low temperature for this morning. Goose eggs, where it comes to rainfall, we are ahead for the month, if I'm not mistaken. Looks like some of the data hasn't downloaded here, so hopefully we'll get that taken care of in just a little while. But we were ahead for the month, at least for as of about a couple of days ago, thanks to all that rain we picked up. And for the year, we were still just behind. You can see again, just behind by a little bit. Looks like about maybe a third to just more of an inch there, so not doing too bad. Record high for this date, 104, set back in 2007. Nowhere close to that, thankfully. And 57, the record low temperature. When you start getting record lows like this in the 50s, you know you're in the thick of summertime. Nowhere close to anything involving frost or freezing or anything else going on there. Thanks to our viewer from Cleveland, Tennessee. A nice view. It's a little bit washed out, but you can just see it wandering through the left side of the screen there. Tracy Forgy, hope I'm saying that right. Thank you very much for a view of a lightning bolt from cloud to cloud, CC lightning going on there from around Cleveland, Tennessee. That's our West Shore home weather window picture of the day for Wednesday. If you've got weather pictures like Tracy did, send them in to us. We'd love to put them in the weather window, and also we post these to our social media pages as well. So if you would like to see your picture up there so we can show it to everybody else, that's great, but we can't show it unless you send it in. So if you could please give us a view of what you're looking at out there. Lightning safely, severe weather, clouds, rainbows, sunrises, sunsets, the dog or the cat or the hamster enjoying the sunset in the backyard, whatever you've got going on. As long as it's weather related, we'd love to see it. So send it in to us so we can feature it as our West Shore home weather window picture of the day. We'd love to be able to see what you're seeing out there. Temperatures from about the last hour or so, pleasant, back in the high 60s on either side of the News 12 viewing area, lower to mid 70s elsewhere. And the dew points over the last couple of days at least have been very quiet. So very nice out there. More humidity is on the way. Not enough for anything involving rainfall. Again, southeast Tennessee, western North Carolina, north central, northwest Georgia, and northeastern Alabama. That's the area we cover from News 12 in downtown Chattanooga, Tennessee. A little bit farther out, we've got, again, a little bit more in the way of rain south and east of us. That's that front pushing its way off to around areas of the East Coast. Heaviest rainfall south and east of us down toward Charleston and off the East Coast down toward around Savannah in Georgia, picking up some more activity there. And a decent amount of thunderstorms taking place into and around portions of Florida on either side of the coastline for tonight. Doesn't look like anything in the way of severe weather taking place, but a decent amount of storms taking place here for tonight. Could be some more tropical weather out here into the Gulf of Mexico. We'll show you the tropic situation coming up here in just a little bit, so stay tuned for more on that. The rest of the forecast, again, should be decently quiet. Unfortunately, it's going to get rather on the warm side very soon. Right now, visibility is unlimited, picking up 10-mile visibility out there. Early tomorrow morning, right around sunrise, we could be looking at some visibilities dropping down to about 3 miles, especially in the Tennessee River Valley. So there could be some patchy problems with dense fog here and there. Whether or not that's enough for a dense fog advisory, it's a little too early for that, as the National Weather Services will wait until the fog becomes a bigger problem. So definitely want to stay tuned on that. For the area of satellite radar, we saw again a lot of cloud cover for today, but that burned off and dissipated basically after the sun started to set and wasn't cooking the lower levels of the atmosphere. It's not all that humid out there. It's just enough moisture about a few thousand feet up to create some clouds, but down to the surface, it was very comfortable with humidity levels going back into about the mid to upper 40% range. So it was very comfortable for today, and hopefully should stay that way tomorrow. We actually have a couple of fronts to talk about for tonight. The first one is already basically through the area. We'll go back to that in just a little bit. The next front arriving on Friday, that might give us a little bit less humidity briefly. It might push the humidity back a little bit, but it's not going to be for long. It will give us a nice Friday, so Friday night football is looking pretty good. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a little while as well. Back to the stationary front and the current conditions around this area of the country. High pressure doing exactly what its name implies, just pushing down to the surface and keeping things very much on the stable side. A few clouds left over, especially back up into the Virginias, eastern Kentucky. That'll be the thickest amount of cloud cover there. And then that front, actually a couple of them heading our way. That might help us out a little bit, keep things dry where it comes to rainfall, but we'll run the numbers on that coming up in just a second. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and show you that. Into tomorrow morning, should be decently comfortable. Some clouds, some fog, and lows very nice. We may not see these again for weeks. Upper 50s to lower 60s around the Cumberland Plateau and into the Tennessee River Valley. For lunchtime and afterwards, mid 80s for the most part, a few upper 80s down to our south, and partly cloudy skies around the area. Then that front gets closer to us by very early Friday morning. More clouds drifting through. But when you watch the temperatures as we go into motion here, it's not going to help us to stay that cool. Matter of fact, we will warm up, so call it a cool front if you want to, but it's not really going to help our temperatures. It may stabilize them a little bit. Notice what's going on down here, upper 80s to lower 90s, so this might do a good job of just kind of pushing the heat and humidity away for one more day, and then we've got some changes coming up into the 7-day forecast. Not too bad. Go back to Saturday morning here. We should see temperatures briefly, mercifully, in the lower 60s to upper 50s. Again, that's that front, the main part of that air coming on through. And then by Saturday afternoon, looks like temperatures will be heading for the upper 80s. I'm thinking more along the lines of the lower 90s for most of the area by Saturday. We're going to be getting back into that hot pattern, and right around the weekend is when we really start to warm back up once again. So that is where we start to see very much on the warm side conditions coming our way. We'll get to the extended forecast here in just a little bit. Let's go ahead and run the numbers for you and show you what we've got coming up. Most of what we're looking at, again, for right now is going to be decently mild into the next day or two. But we will see, again, that potential for numbers heading back upwards again. Lower to mid, this is normal. Right about the lower 90s, that's where we should be for this time of the year, for this area of the country, about 91, give or take. So right about here, it's going to be just about to just above normal. It's not going to be a blowout heat wave. It's not going to be anything in the way of a record-setting several days. It's going to be hot, it's going to be more humid, and that is where we're going to be seeing a lot of problems for outdoor activities. Notice also the chances of rainfall basically gone from the forecast right on in as we go into around starting the last week of August. There's really not much of anything showing up in the way of rainfall. Something really is going to have to change in the atmosphere to allow some more chances of rainfall to develop. And right now, this isn't it. We're not seeing anything in the way of problems. Now, for Friday night football this week, doesn't look like a problem. Very warm and humid as the games start. We'll get the Food City forecast for you coming up in just a little bit. Lows in the upper 60s to lower 70s, and again, highs lower 90s. Triple-digit temperatures, then we're talking about record highs. This right here, hot, humid, and comfortable, but not seeing anything in the way of major problems when it comes to setting record highs, and those haven't been broken for a good 10 to 15 years. Here's hoping it stays that way, because I really don't think we need anything about that coming our direction. Now, we do not at this time have anything in the way of heat advisories. Plenty of them in the Pacific Northwest. That's not where you usually see them, and that's a little worrisome in and of itself on a climate change issue. Desert Southwest, a few of them, and again back into the south central United States as that heat dome wanders on through. Notice again, there is nothing going on directly in the News 12 viewing area when it comes to advisories or heat warnings. I strongly feel that we're going to be looking at more of those possible in the next 7 days as the temperatures begin to really get us a little bit more roasty out there. And the Climate Prediction Center's 6 to 10 day medium range forecast is also showing basically the same thing. That heat dome that has settled over the Midwest is going to slowly kind of eke its way to the southeast, which means the much above normal temperatures. This is where we're going to be seeing the hottest of the hot. The Metroplex, the Crescent City, Jackson, Mississippi, very close to the News 12 viewing area. So our heat button is on its way. We'll be pressing that in the next couple of days. So I would guess that we're going to see both a combination of some very hot weather. We are also going to be seeing less in the way of anything involving rainfall. Now, this is interesting. We'll talk about that in the tropics coming up in just a little bit. This is going to be the potential of very dry weather for a decent amount of time, maybe toward the end of the month. So it's possible we could see some extended periods of dry conditions. Not exactly a drought. We've got plenty of rainfall in the rain gauge for the most part, right about even for this time of the year. Whether or not that sticks around, according to this, very difficult to say. Past about the end of the month. If you'd like to know more about this, these are some of the best forecasts in the business for extended periods of time. The Climate Prediction Center is available through NOAA. That's NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and look for the CPC or the Climate Prediction Center for more. Another branch of NOAA does forecasts for the tropics. Excuse me. Now, there is one system. I don't have it on this map. We'll be talking about the Atlantic for the most part, but we do have a area back over toward the eastern Pacific. We have a full-fledged tropical storm right down here. This is Tropical Storm Hillary, and this is going to be in a perfect position over the next several days to make its way up to the north and eventually curve its way almost right over Los Angeles. So this right here, you saw those areas of green on the extended rainfall forecast from the CPC. This is where we may start to see the potential for the possibility of maybe this storm getting stronger and tapping into the tropics. It looks like by about another 24 hours, this will become a hurricane. And according to the National Hurricane Center, by about 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, this will become a major hurricane. That's Category 3 and above. And then it cruises up very close to the western Baja Peninsula, and then eventually makes its way over, drops to a tropical storm status once again as it rolls right over the area of Southern California. So this right here, if you're heading to LA in the next few days, watch this storm as it hugs the Mexican coastline. This could be a big game changer for weather on the West Coast in about the next week or so. Now, let's go ahead and go back to the situation here. Give me a second. I'm working off two websites on two different computers so we can see a little bit more about what's going on. Back to the Atlantic, we have a couple of systems happening. The first one into the Gulf, and this one not seeing a lot of problems with this. We still have, the potential. It looks like for the next 48 hours, there's about a 0% chance of this developing into anything. And the next 2 to 7 days, there's a low chance, about 20% of this maybe developing into something. Going to be wandering its way if it develops. It doesn't look like much right now, and it's not technically, but not even strong enough or organized enough for a designation. But this could be hugging the coastline and maybe heading up into the Midwest, according to some of the computer models. But we're talking 7 days that it might take to get organized and head up that way. A lot can change on that. And it's important to realize where you're getting your weather information from. I'll talk about that coming up in just a little bit. Let's go a little farther out into the Atlantic, as in the eastern side. We've got a couple of systems. One a little bit farther out into the Atlantic. That's disturbance number one. That one looks like about a 30 to 50% chance of developing in the next week or so. That one getting a little closer to the Leeward Islands within about 7 days. So this mainly out over the ocean, not a threat just yet. And then also disturbance number two here, that one also starting to increase. Let me double check my figures here. This has now increased over the next 7 days from 40 to 50% chance of development. So this one and this one hold now about equal chances of developing and moving off to the northwest. None of them are an immediate threat to the United States or the Caribbean if you're heading that way, but this is the time of the year that we need to watch out for what's going on for travel's sake, because those storms can cause a lot of problems. For travelers, you don't want to be heading into a situation that you're just going to have to turn back around and get out of there. This is something that, again, you really need to, if you're a traveler, really, for safety's sake, you got to pay attention to what's going on in the tropics. The one over the Gulf, and then these two over the Atlantic at this point in time. Now, there is some good news, kind of, sort of, because the area around the Atlantic, let me see if I've got the right one here. Nope, not that one. Okay, sorry, there's a lot of data coming through here, so we want to make certain that we're giving the right thing. Over the next several days, this is going to get interesting as well. The Sahara Desert, the winds, the prevailing winds, move over the desert from east to west, and that picks up the biggest desert on Earth. Lots of grit, dust, sand gets blown upwards into the atmosphere, and this goes out over parts of the Atlantic, and the thicker the dust is, when you see those purple colors there, that's a lot of it heading on through. This right here acts as sort of a sunshade. It shades the tropical area where hurricanes tend to develop, and when you have this much dust out there blocking some of that sunshine, you don't get as many storms to develop. So that is something to consider right there. Now, the good news is that cuts down on the number of storms. The bad news is the ocean is holding a ton, an absolute really worrisome ton of heat from human-driven climate change. This right now is going to be a great area to develop once this sand and dust diminish by just a little bit. It technically doesn't look like much, and you're thinking, okay, well, grit, sand, dust, how can that do anything like that? It can, it does, it has, and it will. And this is what we're going to be seeing as long as this conveyor belt of grit and dust is over the Atlantic. Now, this is stopping a good portion of storms from forming, including those two we saw moving out over parts of the eastern Atlantic. That right there leaves the energy in the atmosphere. You've seen after severe weather, really bad storms the next day or so, it's blue skies, it's cool weather, it's calm conditions. That is a good portion of what can happen here. The atmosphere and the ocean dissipates the heat energy from these storms that form. If that doesn't happen, a good portion of that energy, it's called available convective energy, or ACE. I don't have it on this model graphic right here, but it does show that we are building up a lot of energy. So a lot of the storms that do form here, going from late August into about mid-September, late September, we could have several storms engaging with that energy down around the ocean if conditions are right, and we could see some very nasty weather occur a lot quicker than usual, depending on what goes on. So for right now, we don't have anything really happening specifically that's going to be a problem near where we are, but we've got the storm that is currently over the Gulf that's in formation and doesn't look that bad for right now, but these numbers here, 20% chance over the next week, that could change, and these storm systems off into the Atlantic, definitely something to watch, especially with these 50% chances of development coming on through. So this is really important to take a look at. Not trying to panic anybody. Panic helps nobody. We're just trying to prepare people, especially if you are traveling. You really got to pay attention to this. Please keep an eye on this. If you're heading to the East Coast, the Gulf Coast, the Caribbean, anything like that, now is the time to be very, weather wear. You've really got to make that part of your routine, and don't check the weather on your way out the door to where you're heading to wherever you're going on vacation out there. And that includes, again, the upper East Coast. Anything north of the D.C., Potomac, Chesapeake Bay area, Boston, New York, Baltimore, Philadelphia, anything in that area, keep an eye on it, because with the regular flow, if it's in the right direction, we could see those storms hit the northeast coast around New England. It has happened. It will happen again. So, again, something to watch out for there. Again, tons of information to travel through here, but please, let's be careful out there as we go through the rest of the season. All right, let's go. Where did it go? All right, first of all, let's take a look at tomorrow from the Greater Chattanooga Orthodontics bus stop forecast as we go into Thursday. Not looking too bad for tomorrow. The kids will not need anything in the way of thing in the way of rain protection to or from school. So definitely some good news again on that, and looking forward to what looks to be a beautiful day. It will be a little warm by the time the kids head on home, but that's really going to be about it for the area right now. So hopefully decently pretty good at this point. So not seeing too much of a major problem there. This Friday, tune in to News 12 as we go back to the gridiron. We do our Friday night football touchdown forecasts. We go live from a certain school, depending on what our location is. We'll be live someplace as high school football gets back into gear. And every Friday night from here on out until about the playoffs in late October, early November, we'll be out there keeping track of what's going on. The really good news about this Friday, and thanking our sponsor, Food City, going to be warm and humid around kickoff time and pretty muggy as the temperatures cool off through about kickoff time. The sunset time's getting later and later, so we'll be seeing numbers cool off by a little bit. But by halftime, temperatures will be a little bit on the warmer side and kind of muggy. The crisp days of autumn are ahead of us, but they're just not quite here yet. So we'll be getting to those at some point. But as of right now, looks good for Friday night. And again, tune in for the Food City football tailgate program, and we'll be giving you more information live from the scene to give you an update as to what's going on with the weather to get you into the weekend. So tons of information coming on through. That'll be Friday evening, starting on our 5:30 program and going through the 7 o'clock prime news at 7. So definitely going to stay tuned again for more there. Speaking of schools getting back into session, again, want to put the word out for the teachers and the administrators, especially for science class, that if you'd like to have our weather experts, myself included, come to your classroom and talk about weather, science, climate change, whatever, please let us know by going to the Food City Weather in the Classroom program and give us an idea about contact information, your class size, your schedule, how many classes you want us to talk to, what grade level expectations, GLEs that are required that we can touch on, so that you can say that you taught about this in the classroom. More information about all that, just please give us a shout. Some administrators have asked us before, well, where do you choose to show up at when you do these? And it's like, well, we don't. We have to be invited. It's kind of a nice little thing because we don't want to mess up a teacher's curriculum program schedule for the day. This is us just making certain that we cross-connect with you. But please let us know as soon as possible by going to this website. The longer you wait, the more the spaces that we have for time available will fill up. And when that happens, we may not be able to get to your classroom, sadly, until about spring semester. It'll go that fast. And remember, we have schedule changes around here that we have to deal with, so we may have to postpone, we may have to help out doing severe weather. A lot of things can happen. So the earlier you get these requests in, the more we can help you on that. So please let us know. Go to the Food City Weather in the Classroom page at wdef.com/weather. And you can find out more about weather in the classroom from Food City. So stay tuned for more on that. I think that's going to wrap it up. We've gone almost half an hour here tonight, so done pretty well on time frame for the time being. Talked about a lot of different things. Oh, one other thing I wanted to touch on here, just to be on the safe side, that if you want to go and check out our social media pages, we'd love to have you along for the ride. To find out what's going on when it comes to a whole bunch of things. I'm on many different pages out there to find out more about what's going on. If you haven't seen it yet, meteorologist James Spann from down in Alabama at ABC 3340. On Twitter, he gave a very nice little chat about what he thinks about weather on TikTok. Not all of it, but he did do a good job of talking about more about some TikTokers and some social media places out there, presenters, social media content, whatever you want to call them. Some people are doing a very good job of putting out some very ugly, stupid, wrong information. And Mr. Span does a very good job of calling them out on that. It's very important where you get your weather from. So please keep an eye on that. And if you'd like to see Mr. Span's comments, I put them all over my social media pages. So find out more about that. And again, please check and see what's going on with your weather forecast. One of the forecasts he talks about on the Twitter page, he features on video, talks about a Category 6 hurricane hitting on September the 6th. And why is the government not telling us about that? Well, he calls them out on that, and rightly so. There's no way to tell that anything like that is going to happen that far in advance. Possible, yes. Exact, no. But to be able to sit there and say that there's a conspiracy about a Category 6 hurricane, there is no such thing. Never has been. And again, the thing to be able to say that it's being hidden and no one's talking about it, that's because it doesn't exist. So it's really neat to be able to see Mr. Span talk about that. Very good source for weather and reducing confusion. If you'd like to take a look at his Facebook and other pages on there, he's all over the place. He's what I aspire to be, but I've got a long ways to go before that happens. So take a look at more, and please be careful where you get your weather from, because, and I wish I was kidding about this, but unfortunately, into the course of the next several days and weeks, we are going to start seeing more commentary in regards to what's going on with winter weather. I don't think I have it loaded up here, so I can't show it to you immediately. But in the next several weeks, I would say probably before Labor Day, we're going to start to see people issuing what my wife likes to call the sparkly snow maps of doom, where people have these weird maps that are drawn in basically Microsoft Paint. They make no sense. They are not accurate. They have no way to be able to be taken seriously, but yet a lot of people do. So once again, please use caution. And if you have questions, again, please let us know. Ask questions, send me an email, drop it to our chat section here on Twitter, or Twitch and Facebook, and we'd be glad to talk about that. If there's something out there that seems a little iffy, probably is. So just kind of keep that in mind as we go throughout the next several days and weeks as we get a little closer toward the end of the year and the winter season approaching at some point in time. We'll have to bring back the autumn countdown clock. We haven't done that for quite some time. I'll see if I can bring that into gear as we go into tomorrow. All right, I'm done. We've been blathering enough here for a while, just over 32 minutes of time here. So thanks everybody for stopping by and taking a look. Appreciate everybody stopping by. If you have questions, again, please ask. More information, the website here and also on my Twitch page at the bottom of the screen, wdef.com/weather. And stay tuned for more on what's coming up. Chip Chapman will have your forecast bright and early tomorrow morning. That's Thursday morning, starting at 5 a.m. Eastern Time. And I'll be back with the evening show, and meteorologist Todd Heislip will be here this weekend to give you an idea as to what's going on News 12 at 11, both Saturday and Sunday. Thanks for joining us tonight. Hope you have a good overnight into early Thursday morning, a safe commute out there, and stay tuned for more with News 12 on air and online, and we'll see you on Thursday. Thanks for joining us tonight.